of September. Very interesting. It looks as though we've got changes on the way. Now, this is still just about out of the reliable time frame, so there's got to be a bit of a health warning with it, but it does look as though next week is going to see some sort of a change to more unsettled conditions, particularly towards the latter stages of next week. Have a look at all that in a moment. Just want to mention the advertising. There's green keyword ads on my pages at gazmobiz.com. If you roll your cursor over the green keywords, they'll display ads. If you click through the words, you go to the advertised website, and by doing that, you're supporting gazmobiz.com. Thanks very much for doing that. So we'll start off with the 500 millibar height anomaly charts. The 500 millibar flow charts, really. 500 millibars, 8,000 feet is an important area in the atmosphere because that's where we've got high pressure, low pressure developing, and as those areas of high pressure, low pressure get moved around by the jet stream, that's essentially where we get weather from, or that is essentially what weather is, the movement of air by the jet stream. So we've got the anomaly here on the left from the ECMWF, and we've got the anomaly here on the right from the GFS, and the blue colours are indicating below average heights at 18,000 feet, which is below average temperature, whereas the orange colours indicate above average temperatures at 18,000 feet, which is extrapolating to high pressure. Now, the British Isles is just here, and it's very interesting this. The ECMWF is showing that we've got a large anomalous trough of low pressure sitting around the British Isles for 8 to 10 days' time, which is taking us from around the 6th to, say, the 8th of September. The jet stream with this is coming around that ridge in the Atlantic, going way up to the north, and then diving southwards through the trough, and then rising up again around Scandinavia through another ridge. So that's a very classic sort of ridge, trough, ridge type pattern, and we in the British Isles find ourselves under the trough. That would be very cool, very unsettled. There'd be heavy rain with that. It's a deep trough of low pressure pattern. We've not seen that on these charts for a very long time. We haven't seen it, I don't think, since around June or May probably. So a big anomalous trough of low pressure being predicted by the ECMWF for 8 to 10 days' time. The GFS isn't as extreme with this. It does have some sort of a trough around the British Isles, extending down from the north. We have got the blue colours, but they're nowhere near as deep or as extensive as they are on the ECMWF. The reason for that is that the ridge in the Atlantic isn't to the same extent. There's the ridge sitting in the mid-Atlantic, and if you have a look at the ECMWF again, the ridge in the Atlantic is actually going up towards Greenland, so we've got a very extensive ridge going through the Atlantic. That promotes then the trough around the British Isles. We don't have it to the same extent on the GFS. Nevertheless, the GFS is more unsettled. It would be turning cooler, more showery conditions. The jet stream is coming southwards as well. The lines here are where the jet stream is running through the Atlantic, so it's going through the British Isles and then rising up around Scandinavia, around that ridge. So we do bring the jet stream through, and we do turn it more unsettled, but the ECMWF is very, very unsettled this morning. You'll have a look at those charts in a moment. It's probably overdone. I don't think the trough will get quite as deep as the ECMWF is showing, but if it does, it's going to be a really unsettled and cool spell coming up later next week. These are the GFS temperature ensembles for the upper atmosphere. The red line is where we should be at this time of the year. We can see that at the moment we're very much near normal actually, but it's warm on the surface. We've got a warm legacy of air left over from earlier in August. We're going to see the temperatures dipping down a little bit over the weekend. We're going to go slightly below average, and it will feel a lot cooler and fresh over the weekend. Then at the start of next week, we're going to get another warm spell coming along through Monday, Tuesday, possibly lasting into Wednesday as well. Temperature ensemble go well above the red line through the start of next week, so it will be turning warmer. Then around the 5th or the 6th of September, that's when all the lines begin to move back down, and we go below the red line eventually as we get through to around the 7th of September. Notice all the precipitation spikes, the rainfall spikes coming back from around the 6th, 7th of September onwards as well. Very interesting this date around the 6th of September. You remember a couple of weeks ago I was doing a forecast based on the long-range CFS model, and I said that the 6th of September was standing out as a period where temperatures looked like they was going to drop and we'd settle into an autumnal type situation. It's interesting that this change, if it does occur next week, looks as though it's coming around the 5th or the 6th of September, as the CFS model was seen. So if that occurs, that's a very good performance by the long-range CFS model, but it's, as I say, it's still just too far out to be confident about it. The temperature anomalies for the next week, going from the 29th of August to the 5th of September, show that we're going to be around or a little bit above average. We are going to have a warm spell coming up at the start of next week, and that will be offset somewhat by a cooler spell over the weekend. But we will notice, even with the warm spell at the start of next week, that we have cooler or colder and fresher nights, with temperatures widely going down into single figures. So this is the chart from the GFS model for Monday the 2nd of September, and we've got high pressure right over the top of the country at 1030 millibars, a nice area of quite intense high pressure. As I say, it's going to be warm by day. With that, we'll see temperatures getting up to around 23, 24, possibly 25 degrees still. That's up into the mid 12% Fahrenheit, but it will be cooler at night, long nights, and we'll find the heat radiated away by night, with many areas going down in single figures. That high pressure is still there across the country as we go into Tuesday the 3rd, so certainly the start of next week looking anticyclonic and mainly dry and warm. It's when we get to around the 4th that we begin to see the high pressure pulling off into Central Europe and low pressure starting to develop around Iceland, and then look what happens. Wow, we go through to the 5th of September and we bring that trough down across the country. That will turn it much more unsettled, much cooler as well. We've got north to northwesterly winds feeding down with that. We'll be bringing in showers or longer spells of rain, and we settle into a very unsettled spell as we go beyond that. So Friday the 6th of September, yep, looking really unsettled there, bringing a weather front through which would take heavy rain across all parts of the country. Winds are northerly, so it would be very cool with temperatures just into the mid-teens as we go into the first weekend of September, first full weekend of September, Saturday the 7th, and on into Sunday the 8th, where we've got high pressure out in the Atlantic, a little bit of a transient ridge, but this next area of low pressure forming around Iceland will be coming through. In any case, it's very cool. Having a look at the temperatures, we're just into the mid-teens, 10 to 16 degrees there across the country. Very cool sort of temperatures. The ECMWF, wait until you see this, is even more unsettled. Now we start next week with the high pressure ridging in across the country as we move through to Tuesday the 3rd. The high pressure is still just about there, but the low pressure is developing more to the north of Scotland. Wednesday the 4th is when the high pressure begins to weaken, the first area drifting off in towards the continent, and high pressure pulling back into the Atlantic, so it's kind of splitting apart, and low pressure becoming more influential around Iceland. And then as we go through to Thursday the 5th and on into Friday the 6th, low pressure is taking over the pattern, bringing much cooler temperatures across the country and also bringing outbreaks of rain into many places. And then look what the ECMWF does with that low pressure. It forms it into a major feature, 980 millibars. That's a very deep area of low pressure for Saturday the 7th and Sunday the 8th. Really a deep area of low pressure around the British Isles. Tightly packed ice bars will be very windy. Gale force winds possible in places with lots of really heavy rain. Now, as I say, when we looked at the height anomaly charts, I thought that was a bit overdone. It probably is a bit overdone. I would suggest that the solution from the GFS is more likely, which is not as deep a trough, but still nevertheless some sort of trough, turning it unsettled and cooler. But that ECMWF is very, very unsettled and autumnal. Finally, the GEM, the Canadian model, we had that high pressure ridging across the country at the start of next week. Monday, Tuesday, definitely looking dry for many parts of the country away from Scotland, and quite warm by day. As we go through to the middle of next week, does the GEM turn it as unsettled as the other two? Well, not really. It does bring the trough down across the country, so it turns it cooler. There would be showers or longer spells of rain moving down on Thursday the 5th, but then the high pressure influences are always close to the country to the west, and actually as we go through to the 7th and on into the 8th, the high pressure does ridge back. So that's a very different idea from the GEM compared to the ECMWF. And that's quite unusual because normally the ECM and the GEM do agree with one another. So again, this is all just so far away, but it's still in the unreliable time frame. We need to come into the, say, well, the 144-hour time frame before we can start to get more confident about it. It's just too far out. The GEM does give us the idea that things could still progress rather differently. But nevertheless, on the basis of this morning's evidence, it looks like we're going to start next week on a dry and warm note, then turn it more unsettled through the middle of next week, and perhaps settle into a very autumnal type pattern as we get through to the end of next week. And how long that goes on for, very difficult to say. We'll have a look at some of the more longer range models tomorrow. We'll have the update from the JMA model and have a look at a couple of others as well. But very interesting developments. It looks so autumn could just about be on the way. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.